Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our next episode of Whistle Talk. Today I'm going to have with me Mr. Carmine Picardo. Again, I'm keeping it back-to-back weeks. I got a little Jersey flavor here. Carmine's coming to us from the North Jersey chapter once again. But before we dive into it, if you're liking the content of what you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, come back on, go to the YouTube channel, take a look at YouTube, see what's going on there. Hit that subscribe button there too. The more likes and the more shares that we get, the better the analog or the algorithm or whatever the heck it is. I'm new to this podcast stuff, but it gets our word out there for all of us officials. So take a look at it, hit that like and subscribe button. So once again, I got with me Mr. Carmine Picardo from the North Jersey chapter. Carmine, thank you very much for joining us today. How you doing?
Thanks, Mike. All is well. All is well.
Awesome. So Carmine wanted to come on with us today because as many of the listeners from around the country know, here in New Jersey, we use predominantly pretty much 99% six-man mechanics, transitioned over from the five-man mechanic game to the six-man mechanic game. And Carmine was one of the major reasons for that switch over. And so we're going to kind of dive into the differences between the five and the six-man mechanics and kind of the evolution of how we went from five to six, and put it out there for all the other state associations and see if they can get hear the benefits of what we're doing and maybe hop along with it, because now with all of our major games, with our college games, NFL games, they're going 7-8 man mechanics. So just trying to keep up with the Joneses in a sense, and making sure that we're giving the kids the best game that they could possibly get officiated from us. So, Carm, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind?
All right. Well, I'm a longtime football official, and I'm approaching 50 years, but been off the field for a while now. I worked high school for, I guess, 15 years or so, and then converted, to college officiating. Spent about 21 years at the college level, 13 of them in Division One. Former, educator, former school athletic director, and also was the assigner for most of North Jersey for 20 plus years in terms of football. I was the NJFOA's state football assigner for a little over a decade. So my background in officiating and assigning is pretty extensive, I guess, and it's been a good run for me. And I retired from assigning in 2021, and I'm glad I did it. Quite frankly, the job of an assigner today is a major headache. But in around 2011, in a state playoff championship game at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, I was at the game, and as I was telling you, Mike, before we went on this recording, there was a play towards the corner of the end zone, pass play, which emanated from about the 40-yard line, and the wing official, though we were using 5 officials at the time, the wing official, the line judge, made the call, and he had the receiver catch the ball and would put him down at around the 1 or 2 yard line. And then, of course, on the big board at the stadium, when they showed the replay, he was clearly in the end zone for a touchdown. And the reason that I surmised that the official missed the call is that he was making the call from 8 or 10 yards away on the run. All right. And he took a good guess, but he guessed wrong. And I said to myself, boy, that can't happen. And if we had another official deep on each sideline, that call would have never been missed. So with that impetus, I started the discussion with some school coaches, high school football coaches. That's how it really started. I met with 3 or 4 prominent high school coaches and began to explain to them exactly what happened on that play. And they all recognized it because they all saw it. It was all, all over at that point. And I told them, look, that would never happen with 6 officials. And here's what's something that we could do. And the coaches were like, yeah, that's you're right. How do we do it? How do we get this done? So I said, well, we need to get some athletic directors on board and some other coaches on board, and we've got to get the officials on board. And so we started that process of trying to develop a program for putting 6 officials on the field. I believe that was in early 2012. By the spring of 2012, I had a commitment from about 30 or 40 schools in North Jersey that would allow us to experiment with using 6 officials on the field. So I took what I thought were my 9 top crews in North Jersey, guys I thought would be able to transition a little bit easier, and I had confidence in. And we put a 6th official on those crews, and we assigned them about 8 or 9 games each in 2012 to 6 officials. I mean, to games with 6 officials, and those schools had agreed to allow that to happen. So we did that in 2012, and it was a tremendous success. We obviously took some notes, and we had some data. We kept during the season how many fouls, how many holds, how many blah blah blah. So we kept that data, and realistically, we actually found at the end of the season there weren't really more calls, more holding calls, more pass interference, or less. It was about the same. The difference was that there was a huge uptick in safety fouls being called.
Yep.
All right. And that, out of bounds, late hits out of bounds, an extra set of eyes actually, caught a lot of that stuff. And coaches were happy about that. And athletic directors were elated because they were able to sell to their administrations, the extra official is providing a safer game for our student athletes. So from there, we got more and more schools on board. And in 2013, we rolled out the training for officials statewide. And
okay.
I do recall, Mike, I'm not sure if you were around in 2013 in the Shore chapter, but I went to every chapter and went to a chapter meeting and did a workshop on 6 official mechanics. And we started the process of introducing it to every chapter in New Jersey. And we had asked the local chapters to see if they can solicit some schools in their areas that would want to use 6 officials. And there were. Every chapter got a handful or so of schools that said they would do it. And so some of the officials in each chapter were working some six-man games. At the same time, in 2013, I was able to convince the NJFOA to our state athletic association to use a 6th official on the state finals that year.
Yep.
And they agreed to do that, and we used 6 officials for the first time in 2013 for the state finals, and it was obviously very successful. And then by 2014, we began the process earnestly of converting to 6 officials. We had a manual that we wrote in 2012, made it a little bit better in 2013, a little bit better in 2014, and we got more and more schools. By 2015, 2016, I would say, yeah, there's the manual right there.
Yep, I got it right here.
Yeah, I have it too.
Yep.
We probably had 60% or 70% of the schools using 6 officials on their games. In the North, by 2016 or so, we had pretty much had every school on 6. Look at my notes. And then in 2014, the NJSAA agreed to use 6 officials on all the playoff games. And that was the impetus. Once the NJSAA went with the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals of their tournament, a lot of schools, began more and more came on board. There's a few holdouts. A couple athletic directors didn't want to pay the extra official. But but by 2017, 2018, pretty much the whole state, had converted to 6 officials, and that's pretty much where we're. So I would say we've been 6 officials from 2017 right through now 2024. So it's about 7 years that we've used 6 officials on every game, pretty much. I know that we talked about it. We're experimenting in the state playoffs now, in the championship games, with the 7th official.
I'm not gonna lie. I truly enjoyed that. I got a chance this past season to work one of the state championship games up at Rutgers University, and being an umpire, knowing that I had somebody watching my back in that deep official, along with having the 2 side deep wings, it made me feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that those guys were back there too. So that was good. That was fun.
Yeah, and we briefly talked about this, Mike, but I mean, converting from 5 to 6 was a major change in the way officials officiated the game. I mean, going from 6 to 7, there is a little bit of a change, but it's not a radical change. But
no, it wasn't.
Guys were not used to working, the line judge, the short wings. They had no clue how to work with a deep wing. All right, they had, so we had to train people the coordination between a short wing and a deep wing. We had to train them on their keys on receivers. All right, their zone reads, switching from going from on the goal line to the end line, where we're going to position them on the end line, the coordination inside, let's say, the 10-yard line, on pass plays, on reading their keys, so on and so forth. So that was a major shift. And it took, I would say, even though we started in 2012, 2013, when I looked at games around the state and started watching officials using the 6, there was a lot of struggles, guys getting on each other's way, some officials playing too deep, some officials playing too short, some still getting caught, and getting, not getting to the goal line quick enough, so on and so forth. Dead ball officiating was really a challenge for the deep guys. They were more worried about watching the ball, and when a ball carrier went out of bounds, they're worried about getting the ball, or not worrying about cleaning up the action around the ball carrier, which is the safety thing that we talked about. That was a key element, and we had to drive that into deep guys. Your job is safety, clean up, make sure that no one takes a cheap shot after the runner goes out of bounds or is down even inbounds. But I would say the first few years there was a lot of growing pains, a lot of manual changes. By the time we got to about 2016, 2017, things started to go pretty well.
Yep.
And And I think it was either 2016, 2017, I proposed to the state officials organization to develop a mechanics committee of officials throughout the state that would be tasked with looking at the manual and each year revising the manual and the mechanics based on input from officials throughout the state. So we started that committee. I was the chair, and we solicited 2 or 3 officials from every chapter to serve on the committee, and once we did that, we really took off because the buy-in was now complete. Every chapter had some say and a stake in the game, and it wasn't just a North Jersey or a Central Jersey initiative. It was now a statewide initiative, and we solicited input from officials throughout the state. We asked, if you have a suggestion about mechanics changes, submit the proposal to our committee, and our committee will review it and discuss it. And that's what we did. Each year we solicited proposals. Even got some proposals from coaches and athletic directors. And the committee, we would meet usually in March or April, once or twice, usually twice. By the time we got through all the mechanics proposals, and we talked about them, reviewed them, discussed them, and then voted on it. And once we voted on it, then that became the mechanics change for the year, and you put it in the manual and let everybody know that these are the new changes, and that's where we went with it. And that's what we've been doing since, and it's worked out great. I think it's brought all of our chapters closer together. And one of the things that I was most proud of, by the time we got to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, if you looked at a state playoff game or any game, you wouldn't know where those officials were from. Years ago, going back 15, 20 years, those guys must be from the South. They got their flags hanging out. They got the hats on sideways, They use this mechanic, they use that mechanic. These guys use this mechanic from that. And guys were every chapter did their own thing. Some crews did their own thing. I remember having, one crew or from one chapter, or more than one crew, several crews from a chapter. They used to put the umpire under the goalpost on an extra point and field goal, and some would have the referee on one side of the quarterback, some would have it on the other side of the quarterback. I mean, it was a mishmash. But once we started with the 6 and we formed that committee, I think we can easily say that every official is using the manual, and the mechanics are the same statewide. I mean, we could wholeheartedly make that statement and say that's 100% accurate. And the crews that don't, they're called out pretty quickly. So
it's pretty evident at times.
Yeah, and I think around 2017, when we started the mechanics committee, we decided that we would print the manual, and that was the first year, 2017, that we actually printed it statewide. We had it professionally printed. Prior to that, we electronically delivered it, and officials had to print it themselves. And probably by then it was 45, 50 pages. Not too many people want to print 50 pages on their computer. So I suspect, up until 2017, a lot of officials never printed the manual, never had it with them. But once we got this printed, every official in the state got a copy of it. And, as I know, when I was the assigner, I said, look, if I come to a game, I better see 6 officials with 6 manuals, in your bag somewhere. And I think most guys do carry it now and bring it with them, and it's a good basis for their pregame. So, and we decided that we would print it, and we do it every 2 years. So 17 was the first year, 19 we reprinted it. 21 we printed, and 23, and then we'll reprint again in 25. And in the off years, And when we make mechanics changes, we do an addendum and we publish that electronically. And it's usually only a couple of pages. And they can insert that into their manual. So that's the history of
and
6-9.
I could say there's not much of a big change this year with the addendum. We were talked about it at our state meeting a couple weeks ago about the changes, but nothing that's earth shattering. I want to kind of go back to what you were talking about with the 5-man mechanics and the safety aspect of it. And I coming up the ranks, I started in 16, and 17 was my first year of being on the field. And when I was a cadet in 16, all the games that I had worked were all 6-game mechanics. My first game on the field was a 5-man mechanic game, and I was the deep guy. So I'm 6'3" right now. I weigh too much, but I was a little bit lighter then. I was running. I was in good shape, but the mechanics definitely were different. And one of the main things that I found out from being deep, okay, if we got a trips formation, say on my left-hand side, my keys and my focus are over there. But now all of a sudden, if that quarterback scrambles and he goes out of bounds to the right, you got a short wing there, but I might be 30, possibly almost 40 yards away from my depth and now going to the far sideline to clean up what's going on behind that guy. I mean, if that quarterback happened to go into the opposing team's bench, you never know what the heck's going on. And now I've got to get there from 40 yards back. So there was some scrums and different things like that we weren't able to pick up on. And now having a guy on your sideline that's 20, maybe 25 yards away, they're coming in, they're dead ball officiating, they're checking, holding a spot if you got to clear your spot from a short wing. So that has made a huge difference in all the junk and stuff that we had going on just on the sidelines alone, let alone in the middle of the field.
Clearly, the 6th guy, I mean, it did basically two major things. One, it provided a safer game, no doubt. Even dead ball officiating, even on a running play, 8-9 yards down the field, those wing guys pinching in, the deep wings pinching in, cleaning up that action outside the purview of the line judge, umpire, and head linesman. And even with the back judge, again, as you said, he's on one side of the field. Something happens on the other side of the field, he misses. So cleaning up that stuff, the safety aspect, number one, very important. The second thing that 6 did was provided accuracy at the goal line. All right,
100%.
We do not miss too many goal line plays any longer. All right, and the reason is that pass that's 30 yards downfield, that guy's sitting there waiting, right, just waiting, and if that's a bang bang at the goal line, 99.9% they're getting it right. And that's the money call. And that's one of the things I sold coaches on. I said, Coach, you could lose a game or win it. You could lose a game on an official missing a call at the goal line, right? Because he's not in position to make a good call. And coaches were like, and so I think those are two biggest things, the 6. Obviously, the keys and having better, an extra set of eyes downfield, all that stuff helped out. But safety, the money call, those are the two big things.
So now I have to admit to a mistake that I made too. It was my second game now, again, being that deep official. A young man who happened to be the state 100-meter state champion in track and field that year, a running back who also went on to a very decorated career at Princeton. He breaks a long run, and he now is in the clear, and I'm set up 22 yards away from the line of scrimmage. So kind of like I'm thinking baseball, I'm gonna take my first reads back, taking them back. Well, this kid got on me so fast because he broke the line of scrimmage on some type of dive play, and now it was just him and me. And now he starts messing with me. I'm trying to open my hips to try to get back and get to the goal line as fast as I can with this 100-meter state champion coming right at me. He starts weaving me and playing games with me because he knew there was nobody from behind him that was catching him. So I'm trying to change my hips, open up while I'm trying to get to the goal line. And all of a sudden the kid gets to me and he's smiling behind his mouth guard. And I thought I was at the goal line. I blow the whistle. I put my hands up. He runs past me, flips the ball to me. Carm, I was standing at the 1.
Yep.
I was standing. I couldn't get there in time.
Yep.
The kid was that fast, even with the depth, and I was pretty quick at the time. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't a sprinter, but thank God it didn't affect the game. The coaches didn't complain about it. They didn't say boo because the game kind of got out of hand, and they knew that this kid was getting into the end zone anyway. Still not excusable on my part. I'm not trying to make any excuses. I just got lucky of how the outcome played out, that nobody really brought it up. But it's something that always stuck in my head, that I couldn't get back to that goal line. And now if you do have 2 guys deep, you got 2 guys that are literally turning their hips and they're sprinting and they're getting back there, and they're using now their peripheral vision to get that guy, where I had to kind of keep him more in my focus.
Yep.
I missed the play.
Yep.
And I mean, it was my goal line at the time.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, having with the 5, the back judge, the back judge, generally speaking, on a long pass play would get to the goal line. He's in the middle of the field. All right. The money calls are often on that 15 or 20-yard pass play, that the guy catches near the sideline. All right. And by the pylon. All right. And, is he inbounds, out of bounds? Did his foot go down, knee go down at the half-yard line, 1-yard line? Guys are trying to make that call on a 5-man game. They're making that call from the 6-yard line. All right. 5-yard line, because by the time they read in the 5-man game, you have the whole line of scrimmage, right? Potentially a running play. And by the time they read pass, well, bingo, that pass is out and gone. And, you're starting to sprint downfield. Then you're also making a call on a run, right? And as we know, positioning is key. If you could stop, hold your position, and focus with your eyes, you have a better chance of making the correct call. So, that again, the goal line is a key, and having the 6th, really cleaned it up a lot, Mike.
I also then, so again, going back, I transitioned then from being that deep middle guy to going to the sideline and working with a 6-man crew. And I could tell you the amount of calls working with that deep wing on my side, the relationship that he and I built with each other, we were kind of symbiotic with each other, because now anything on the sidelines, I knew I had help. I knew I had somebody helping clean me up. But also now, just those plays on the sidelines. These kids now, they're making these ridiculous, Odell Beckham came into fame around the same time, making those one-handed catches, keeping their feet in. And again, in the high school level, you only have to have 1 foot land in bounds before you are considered to be in possession of the ball.
Yep.
In the 5-man mechanic, if that play happened 15 yards away from me with their back to me, well, am I seeing the ball or am I looking at their feet? Well, now I'm working with a guy down deep or another official that's deep. If the back's to me, I'm going to go down to the feet. He'll have the ball. We'll communicate before we make the call. If they're facing towards me, I'll check to make sure they have possession, and he's going to check the feet, make sure that he got a foot inbound. So we're working with each other on that play, and we're making that play a lot more cleaner, and now we're able to sell it to the coaches better. No, coach, he was bobbling that. We're out of bounds. Whoa, I'm smacking my microphone here, but just doing the hand gestures and stuff like that, that helped our game immensely, and just it helped get the coaches off of our back on what could be a controversial play. They saw that we would communicate with each other, and we would have, now both of us would have it, or we'd even come in and we'd talk. What did you have? What did I have? All right, we got a reception. Let's go first down.
Yep.
So
absolutely. And again, as I said to you a little bit before, it was a huge change from 5 to 6. That coordination between the short wing and the deep wing, and again, the more you work at it, the years we've spent on revising the manual and stressing different aspects of the change, of changes. Again, guys are getting more comfortable with it, getting better and better. One thing that I wanted to comment on is the end. The deep wings cannot get beat to the goal line. All right,
yes,
that can't happen. You have to be at that goal line, to make the play. That's the money call. All right. If he's down on the 4-yard line, 5-yard line, 3-yard line, nobody gives a crap. But you can't miss that goal line. But the NFL a couple of years ago started with the philosophy that, move with purpose, they used to say. And the deep guys, if you watch some NFL games, the deep officials sometimes would just stand there on a pass play and let the play go by them. And, here's a guy running the goal line and the deep wing is on the 15-yard line chasing him, right? Or moseying their way down. And, I didn't particularly agree with that. But, the NFL, they said, well, if you hold your position, you have a better look. You're not moving. You're not running. You're stopped. You're stable. You're focused. And I agree with that. But in the high school game, we don't have the luxury of the NFL with 18 million cameras in replay. All right.
Yeah.
If that guy gets beat to the goal line by 20 yards and that guy gets knocked out of bounds at the half-yard line or 1-yard line and he rings it up or whatever, replay steps in and fixes it. All right. That's the extra 3 guys. They got 4 with those cameras. They got 15 other officials on the field. Right.
Yep.
I said at the high school level, we don't have that. We don't have that ability. Yeah, we can't say, well, okay, let's go to replay and fix it. All right. So you have to be there. You have to be in position to make that call. And that's really, really important that we stress with our guys.
So let's talk about that. 'Cause that's a great point about getting beat to the goal line. And I want to go back to the 5-man mechanic. So on a 5-man mechanic, on a pass play, our short wings were now floating.
Right.
And the umpire would have the line of scrimmage to make sure if the quarterback went over the line of scrimmage or not. Now in our 6-man game, our short wings are holding the line of scrimmage to make sure the quarterback's not across the line when they make the throw. So that's one thing that helped. But also now, when those short wings started to float, if say you had an interception out wide, and all of a sudden now you got a change of possession, and now we got reverse mechanics. Now it's up to that short wing to try to bust their butt to get down to the end zone, to try to not get beat to the end zone. And all of a sudden they're doing it. It's already a disadvantage even when we are standing at the goal line with this kid getting ahead of steam, maybe 6 yards, catching the ball and going of trying to get down there. But now if we're even a little bit deeper than them, there's no way we're getting down to that goal line. So again, we're already putting ourselves in a bad position there, just on positioning wise. Yep. And also now as the umpire, when I was an umpire in a 5-man crew, we have the line of scrimmage, but we have the line of scrimmage from about 3 or 4 yards away. We're not truly getting at the line of scrimmage unless that play is really going wide. So we're trying to make that call from an angle that's not really conducive to know if that person was really over the line of scrimmage or not. So
absolutely.
It's now giving us help with that call too.
No question. It's cleaned that up, passes over the line of scrimmage, men downfield, so on and so forth. The short wings got it. It frees up the umpire in our 6-man game to stay a little deeper and not have to come up, years ago, we used to say the umpire would be about 6 yards deep, 7 yards, and if a red pass, he would come up towards the line of scrimmage or close to the line of scrimmage. All right. Even years ago, he used to come up to the line of scrimmage. All right. Now, we're telling our umpires stay 7 to 9 yards deep, and your read pass, come up a few yards, and try to look for the and the other thing too is with the umpire with the 6. The umpire is really only responsible for center, guard, maybe the right tackle. All right. Mm-hmm. But with the short wings, since they're on the line, they have the responsibility also of their tackles or tight end on their side for holding.
Yep.
So it really kind of gives, and the referee has the left tackle all the time, right? So basically, the umpire has guard, center, guard, maybe right tackle, but he's getting some help from his wing. So the responsibility has changed. They should do a much better job of getting holding. Well, we're on that though. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I'll mention it. This past year in our mechanics committee meeting, there was a proposal to move the umpire to the offensive side of the line of scrimmage. And as you know, in the colleges with 8 officials, they definitely, the division, the big time college of Division One conferences use the umpire. They call it the center judge. In 7-man at the NCAA level, they've now moved the umpire to the offensive backfield. All right, and so there's no umpire in the 7-man game at the NCAA Division 2, 3, even some Division 1, conferences. So we had experimented with, well, not experimented, we had a proposal, and it's an interesting topic. The downside of moving the umpire out, the 6-man game, is then the middle is wide open. All right, totally wide open. Now with the umpire being about 9 yards deep, even though he moves up on a pass play, he still has some coverage downfield. He could help out on some catches over the middle. All right, a trap in front of him where the wing guys really can't get it. But if you take him out of there, there's no coverage. The upside, though, of moving him is that the amount of accuracy calls for holding, chop blocks below the waist will go way up. All right, the accuracy of those calls. Roughing the quarterback, again, safety fouls, all right? Face masks, anything that really rough line play. Now you have 2 sets of eyes back there, and they're in a real good position to see the holes, right? You're not screened out. Also, sideline to sideline coverage, right? The umpire gets into that side zone on his side, helping out the short wing, all right? Rough play in the side zone. Now with the other way, the referee, if he's on the left side of the quarterback and the play goes to the right, he's got to run 50 yards. He ain't helping anybody, right? So there's a real upside to that, and we had a real strong discussion about it. Ultimately, the committee felt that it was probably not in the cards at this particular time, but it's something that the committee is looking at, and we think. My guess is, I think we might propose to do that on an experimental basis in 2025. With select crews on select games to see how it goes. Of course, that opens up the middle, and that's the downside. The other side of it is the umpire would have to be pretty athletic, because he or she is still gonna have to get up there and spot that ball after every play. So if you have somebody who's not very athletic, that could be a challenge. So there is some things going on there. But I just want to talk about the middle of the field. Even with the 6, people say the middle is totally exposed, and it is. But I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of football games and observed them personally, seen a lot on film. I would say, and if you talk to most crews, maybe 1 or 2 plays a season where passes are over the middle, 20 yards, 25, 30 yards downfield, that they miss, that they can't determine, did he catch it, did he not catch it? Probably 98% of the time, that deep middle is not a factor, all right, on passing plays, though it can happen occasionally. So, again, putting the umpire in the backfield, we had talked about that. Like, what's the advantage, disadvantage? What are we giving up? What are we gaining? All right, we're giving up that middle, but we only give it up 2 or 3% of the time that there may be a play there that we can't get, right?
Yeah.
Versus bringing them in the backfield and then getting some real quality calls on holding, and because that's the most missed call. And it's not only they're not calling it. I think the accuracy that umpires are calling holding and referees are calling holding is pretty low because they don't have real good looks.
So now I got a question for you. With the umpire moving close to the line of scrimmage, were you finding that there was more potential for injury with the umpire than now with the six man? Because I know I stay 7 to 9. I'm keeping my depth, but I'm also not only just keeping my depth, I'm actually going a little bit side to side and giving myself a better angle, as opposed to when I would have to get closer to the line of scrimmage, getting caught in that mosh. Now at 7 and 9, I've still gotten undercut. I've still gotten taken out. I mean, it's a position. It's a hazardous position, but all the positions on the field are hazardous. But did the injury chances go down from the 5-man mechanic to now the 6-man mechanic because the umpire being a little bit further away from the play? Did you see any correlation with that?
I'm not sure about that, Mike. I really don't. I don't have a good read on that, but I can tell you this: if you told coaches that there would be no umpire in the middle, they would sign up for it tomorrow, because the passing game, you get in the way a lot of their routes, right? Okay, when they and today's passing game at any level, they're crossing receivers, in that zone 8-9 yards downfield. That's one of the reasons why the NFL got rid of it, all right? Because it opened up the middle, all right? And obviously the umpire is exposed to a little bit of injury. There's no question. And also receivers having to, duck the umpire, right?
Yep. They're already trying to duck the linebackers going through the middle of the field.
Exactly. So from a coach's perspective, like I said, if we propose that, they would go, hey, hurrah, hooray, 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 right? The biggest drawback, I think, of moving the umpire to the backfield in our game here in New Jersey with 6 officials is, again, exposing a little bit more to the middle, and again, having an umpire would have to be athletic. And even an athletic umpire would be, challenged to get, from 12 yards deep, 10, 12 yards deep, getting to that line of scrimmage, or getting 10 yards downfield on a running play, or 20 yards downfield, or 30 yards downfield, on a passing play. Of course, we could ask the line judge and the linesman to potentially spot the ball a little bit, on some plays that are deep downfield on the side, towards the side zones. But that's the concern that a lot of people had, that if we did that, or some of the umpires might quit. They said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to run so much. But I think
Carm, I'm probably going to say something that's going to be very unpopular with a lot of umpires, but I'm for it. And if that's what I have to do in order to get myself in better shape in order to do it, that's my motivation. Because if that's what's going to give the kids the best game, sign me up for it. So if I got to work, and I know I coached for 20 some odd years, so I know all the time and hours that those kids are putting in. And if I can't, because I'm out of shape, make that call, maybe I need to go upstairs. And again, that's a personal opinion of mine, and I know that's not going to be a very popular opinion with some other umpires that are out there. And I weigh 240 pounds right now. I'm working on it. I'm going out for runs and trying to get back down. I want to try to get to the 220 range once again to be able to move. But it's something that's in my mind that, hey, these kids have been working all summer long. I can get myself in a little bit of better shape so that I'm in the right position, making the right calls, and not huffing and puffing. And because Vince Lombardi, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So when I get fatigued as a referee and as an umpire, I'm possibly thinking about, God, I'm so tired, it's so hot, and I'm missing a call. Just like when the players, I'm so tired, and now they're missing a block. So it goes hand in hand. And again, my job, and I love the game of football. I've been involved in football since I was 14 years old. I just turned 50 a couple months ago. So it's ingrained in me. I want these kids to have the best experience on the field. So if that means that I need to get my butt moving again, I'm getting my butt moving again.
Yep.
So I'm for going in the backfield for my safety purposes too.
No question. It's a thought, and I know my comment in our committee meeting, we had this discussion, and it went back and forth. I mean, there was some support for it. There was a lot of not, there's a few committee members were supportive of it. I said to him, look, if you have, so somebody said, well, some of the umpires, are up there in age, veteran guys, and they don't move quite as well as they did when they were 20 years younger. And my comment was, well, maybe there time for maybe some position switches. Maybe you take a young, athletic, deep guy who's and convert him to an umpire, and take that umpire who's his legs are not as strong as they used to be, and put him as a convert to a deep guy. Now, of course, that's easier said than done. And some people would not want to do that, but there are options. So let's put it that way. There are options, and I think it's worthy of a discussion down the road. But in the meantime, we still have the 6, and of course, if we had 7, it would be a no-brainer. If we had 7 officials, that would be a no-brainer. I think the committee would pass it in a heartbeat, and I think we would have no problem even convincing umpires, because if you had the 7th guy back there, a long pass 30 yards downfield, the back judge would just spot the ball. It's easy.
Yep. So now I got to give a shout out. I just yesterday got sent some video from a gentleman in Oregon. Tony Fox sent me some video for some scrimmage kick plays up in Oregon, and I was just browsing through them last night when I got home, and I noticed they're a 5-man mechanic, but they're a 5-man mechanic with the umpire in the offensive backfield. So I want to actually, I'm interested to touch base with Tony and find out a little bit more about that mechanic, how they're working that out with 1 deep, 2 short wings, and then 2 guys in the offensive backfield. So, Tony, if you're out there listening, I will be reaching out to you in the near future to talk about that mechanic.
Yeah, I think more and more as we go through the next year or two, we're going to see more and more officials, organizations looking at the umpire in the backfield. It just makes, to me, besides the athleticism and the burdens of movement and having to cover more territory, take that away. Everything else just makes so much sense. You have a better coverage in the backfield. You have sideline coverage. You have safety issues that you can, that are, well, no one wants to see, no one wants to pick up a game film and see a kid gets chop blocked, all right, or blocked below the waist and blows out his knee, all right?
Yep.
And the officials had no clue, all right, about that call. And no one wants to see that. Again, you put that umpire back there, you're picking that up most likely, because that's going to be his primary responsibility, right? Looking for blocks below the waist, chop blocks, face mask, obviously to hold him, all right? To me, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a wave of the future, but maybe not in the next year or two.
All right. Well, we are coming up to about our 50-minute mark here, so I don't want to keep you much longer. Nope. Any last words that you want to leave our listeners with about the transition?
I think in New Jersey we have a great a working group of officials statewide. Mike, you were at the clinic. Our officials clinic in past about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, August 3rd. We had 350 high school football officials there from all over the state. All right, and they're all high school guys, and not just from one area. Every chapter had significant representation. The mechanics, were talked about. Rules were talked about. Philosophy was talked about. Again, 350 of maybe 1,000 officials coming to this clinic the 3rd year. We probably have serviced 650 officials over the course of 3 years. Different officials. New Jersey has a real good working relationship of all of our chapters. Our mechanics are solid. I put our manual up against any manual in the country in terms of its thoroughness. And we're real proud of what we've done here in New Jersey over the last 10 years.
I agree. I think it's made a great difference in the flow of the game, the speed of the game, and the safety of the game, most importantly.
No question.
Well, Carm, I want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. For my listeners out there, again, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And also, I'm going to throw this one in there. Reach out to me, MikeD@gmail.com. If you have a mechanics manual, email that to me. Okay, I'd love to take a look at the differences from state to state, and consequently, we have a digital version of ours. I send that to you guys too. So if anybody is a 5-man crew and you're looking to go to a 6-man crew, great point of reference of what Carmine and the other gentlemen on the committee have really put some work into, and really made this very advantageous to us here in the state of New Jersey. So reach out to me, leave your comments, leave your reviews, hit that like, subscribe button, and again, go to YouTube. You'll also be able to see it on YouTube. So once again, I thank you, Carm, for taking the time. I look forward to seeing you in the future, and thank you.
You're welcome, Mike. Have a great day.
You too.
If you're enjoying today's show and you want to show your appreciation to Mike D, you can buy him a beer by clicking on the link in the show notes, or go to buymeacoffee.com/Mike D the referee. And as always, make sure to click follow and give 5 stars. Thanks for listening. Cheers.